Kanal Dengar.
Good morning everyone and our distinguished Her Excellency Madam Ambassador Olivia Leslie and the staff from Embassy of Ireland in Indonesia. It's such an honor for Kanal Dengar team to do a podcast collaboration to commemorating St. Patrick's Day. We hope that this collaboration will strengthen cultural diplomacy between Ireland and Indonesia. To start the collaboration, we from Kanal Dengar team, we have several questions to ask. So, first question. During the pandemic, people tend to stay at home to quarantine themselves. Because of this matter, the work that should be done face to face cannot be performed as it should. From your standpoint, as the ambassador of Ireland, does it hinder you to carry out your duties or does it make it easier for you?
Thank you, and thank you very much for a lovely welcome, and we're delighted to be here. I think that's a very good question. I saw a tweet the other day from a diplomat in Ireland, and he said, diplomacy is a contact sport. So obviously I have some sympathy with that because I think we rely a lot on interpersonal skills and on meeting in person, and obviously sometimes in diplomacy it's easier to solve problems if you're in the room with people and you have that urgency. So yes, I think it has been quite a challenge for all of us, particularly here in Indonesia, where it's a very social country and people love to meet and people are very open and friendly and will talk to you. So we do miss it. On the other hand, I think there are also some upsides. I think because of how we have moved to working virtually, I am able to bring together people who maybe wouldn't be able to travel to Indonesia. So we're able to get them together on Zoom, on Google Meet, etc. And what that means is that we can maybe do things that we couldn't do before. And I hope that we can keep that element of diplomacy when we recover from this pandemic, as well as going back to some of the personal meetings.
As the pandemic is still going on, ambassadors, diplomats, and embassies have to become digital savvy, like you said before, and collaborate with non-state actors and technological expertise. What about the implementation of cultural diplomacy, which mentions that digital technology skills are influential?
Yes, and when I was thinking about this morning, for diplomats, I think moving online, communicating virtually, particularly communicating culture virtually, was probably more of a challenge. But I think 1 year into the pandemic, I think we've learned a lot about how to communicate virtually, and particularly around culture. And I think we've learned a lot from our colleagues who work in the arts and theatre, because they moved their content online very, very quickly, musicians, artists, etc., because they had to move it online to survive economically. So I think we've learned, we've picked up, and we've become a little bit better. So I think it was a challenge, but I'm happy to say that we are now fully capable of working digitally.
Yeah, the pandemic pushes us to be more creative, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And have more patience, I think, as well, because it is harder to engage with people if they're on the other side of a screen.
And what kind of cultural diplomacy strategy does Ireland use to enhance relations with the various countries?
So we have quite a long tradition in Ireland of cultural diplomacy, and we're known as a country with strong cultural traditions and a reputation for artistic excellence across a number of areas. So, for example, music particularly, a lot of people would be familiar with Irish music, with dance, with literature, with these particular areas. And our state network, so the embassies, our embassies in our network have a particular responsibility to promote culture as well. So before the pandemic and now during it, it's been a big part of our role for example, to encourage cultural exchange programs, to sponsor exhibitions, to have concerts, to have musical exchanges happening all the time. For example, we would have musicians at our events to showcase work like that. In many countries there would be centres for Irish studies at universities. We don't have that yet in Indonesia. That's a challenge for the future. I would love to see that, a centre for Irish studies at one of the universities here. So we work across a variety of areas. And then I think it's very important to say as well that we recognise that cultural diplomacy, it's a two-way street. It's not just about us saying, here is our culture. We're very proud, for example, in Ireland to have a gamelan orchestra sponsored by two of our universities, bringing fantastic Indonesian culture to the heart of Ireland. The embassy has also just completed a short video project here in Indonesia and featuring musicians from across Southeast Asia who've taken up Irish musical instruments and Irish music. And I suppose that's a way of honouring their commitment to Irish music as well. So I would say we have a strategy, but what's important as well is that we try to promote Indonesian culture in Ireland as well as promoting our own culture here.
Wow.
You say about music very often in your statement. Do you like to watch some concert?
I love to go to concerts, and Irish music I know is traditional Irish music is fantastic, but there is also a sort of a strong tradition in Ireland of other types of music. So people in Indonesia might be familiar with U2, for example, who are a rock band, not a traditional Irish band, or with some of the pop exports from Ireland like Westlife and Boyzone
And Hosier.
and Hosier. I'm very happy to hear you mention Hosier because he's a big favourite of mine as well. And beautiful voice.
Yes.
We have to watch Irish music sometimes, right?
Yeah, and in fact, the embassy used to have a playlist on Spotify. So we will work this St. Patrick's Week during the festivities to get the playlist back up online again, so people can listen to new Irish music.
I'm going to follow that account.
Yeah.
So, next question. Kanal Dengar and the Embassy of Ireland have just conducted a joint podcast, wherein in this collaboration there will be language exchange in the making. How do you view the cultural exchanges between countries through language and folklore?
Well, I think language and folklore are at the very beginnings of our cultural identity and some of the oldest elements of our culture. If you look at language, for example, the Irish language is essential and it's really critical to understanding the origins of Ireland and our history and understanding it. And I think that's quite similar in some ways for Bahasa Indonesia, because as a language it unifies people who speak 300 or more other mother tongues, and it's really important to your identity. So I think understanding language and respecting languages is a very important part of cultural exchange. And I think it's similar with folklore, because folklore is something that's passed down through generations. A lot of the time it's oral storytelling. And so it tells you something about the evolution of a country, of a nation, and before the current political system or before religion, current religious practices. It tells you something about the origins.
Okay. So how do you feel about Kanal Dengar in initiating podcast diplomacy with the Embassy of Ireland?
Well, we're really, really happy about it. And when I heard about it, I was very excited because I think it's a great way to engage with people. I mean, podcasts are fantastic. You can listen to them on your Sunday morning cycle or on your walk. It's a great way and it's not something that I'm particularly familiar with. So we were really, really happy that you asked us to do it. We're particularly happy that we're getting to do it this week because around the 17th of March we celebrate St. Patrick's Day, which is our national day. So it's really great timing for us to be able to talk about our culture with you during a week when we traditionally celebrate our heritage.
We're talking about our collaboration to have exchange, folklore exchange. I want to know, what is your favorite folktale story?
So my favourite folktale stories are Irish, which is maybe not a surprise. And when I thought about this question, I think I have chosen the adventures of the giant Fionn McCool and his followers who were called na Fianna. So these are very famous sort of oral folk tales in Ireland. And Fionn McCool was kind of, how would I describe him, a mythical warrior. And a lot of his stories are associated with geographical features in Ireland. For example, you may not be familiar with it, but there's a very beautiful natural feature in Ireland called the Giants Causeway. And this consists of 40,000 interlocking basalt columns on the north coast of Ireland, stretching out into the sea towards Scotland. And while science tells us these columns come from a volcanic eruption, which you will be familiar with here in Indonesia, in Ireland, folk legend would have it that Fionn McCool built them as steps to Scotland so that he could go and fight another giant in Scotland.
Cool.
It didn't work out so well for him though, because when he got to Scotland, the other giant was extremely angry and chased him back across the sea, and he only escaped by pretending to be a baby, which he was able to do because the other giant was so large.
Yeah.
But he is associated with a lot of sort of geographical features in Ireland, and is one of is a folktale, for example, that many children would be familiar with. And folktales are very important for children, I think, to learn about their culture.
It taught about spirit, about never give up, right? Being creative, maybe. Yeah,
Yes.
it's good for the kid and children, right?
Yeah, and to be brave, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe
to
to
be
be
brave.
brave and adventurous. Which,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow. And have you ever made a podcast with friends or family? And what do you think about podcasts being a new medium for disseminating information?
So I have never made a podcast, so this is my first. So I'm really happy to be able to do it with you guys because you know what you're doing. So it's nice to do it with professionals.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's a great initiative. As I said, I think they're a really good way of communicating with people, and I think as well, what I quite like about podcasts is that you're listening, you're not necessarily watching. So
Yeah.
it's an escape in some ways from too much visual. But I'm really excited to be making it with you.
Yeah, to enhance the art of listening. Yeah.
Exactly.
Between Indonesia and Ireland, certain activities are created to strengthen bilateral relations between the two countries. In the field of education, does the Ireland government have particular scholarship for Indonesian citizens who wish to study in Ireland? Are there Irish citizens interested in studying in Indonesia through the scholarship program?
So I'm really glad that you asked this question because educational exchange is a big priority for us at the embassy, and we have great relationships with the ministries here that are involved in education, the Ministry of Education and Culture, our former friends at Dicty, etc., the Ministry of Religious Affairs. So it's definitely a priority for us. And Indonesian students who wish to travel to Ireland can apply for a number of different scholarships, either for Government of Ireland scholarships, and we have some Indonesians in Ireland on those scholarships now, which are centrally funded by the government. And some of our universities also have scholarships specifically for Indonesian people, for people from Southeast Asia more generally. We have a brilliant local education representative here who works with the embassy, and please do contact the embassy if anyone is interested in that. I think it's a wonderful experience to go to Ireland. We have a number of Indonesian students there at the moment. Many of them are on scholarships or with partial supports as well. And we also have a great system in that after you do your university in Ireland or your third level education, you can stay behind for a couple of years and work. This is very useful. We are the only really remaining English language speaking country in the European Union, so it's a great gateway for students to be able to spend some time in Ireland. So I would really encourage anyone who's interested to contact the embassy or our colleagues, and we can point them in the right direction. In terms of Irish students, we've had a few here in Indonesia coming to study. I would like to see more come, because I think it would be an amazing experience
Yeah.
for a young Irish student to get to spend time here, not just in Jakarta, but in some of the other
Yeah.
amazing cities where across the archipelago. And I've been to visited universities all over the place, as far away as Ambon. It's a great environment for students. So we will be encouraging more Irish people to come here and study.
Wow, an honor.
All Olympians.
So, since all the students are still doing online learning, Kanal Dengar wants to increase the literacy rate in Indonesia by making the podcast. Thus, the students can listen and watch it from YouTube. We have a plan to distribute the contents to the schools, thereby they can learn about the Irish culture through our podcast. What is your opinion about this strategy?
Well, I think it's a great idea. I also think it would be a huge honor for the embassy to have schools and to have school children, look at and try to learn a little bit about our culture. It would mean an awful lot to us to know that our small little country in Europe has made some kind of cultural impact here in Indonesia. And we would love, for example, to be able to have an exchange between schools in our two countries as well on cultural issues. And I think it's a great idea, and I hope that the young people enjoy the story, enjoy the folklore, enjoy the poetry, and there's an awful lot of Irish culture out there to explore, readily available.
Yeah, I've read the Irish folktale, and I really love it. The folktale from Ireland.
Oh, good!
Yeah.
I'm very pleased to hear it. It's fun. They're always kind of fun, which I think is important.
And we're talking about the pandemic make us cannot watch festival or music concert.
Yeah.
And cultural festivals are likely to be of interest to both of Indonesian and Ireland. During the pandemic, is there a substitute for this cultural festival, or will the implementation of this cultural festival be postponed until the pandemic is over?
Look, I think sometimes there's nothing like being in the room for a wonderful piece of music or a piece of theatre and feeling that atmosphere.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think arts communities across the world, in Indonesia and in Ireland equally, have really adapted very quickly to the current circumstances. I've been really impressed. There have been huge numbers of festivals online in Ireland. For music, for example, we have a fabulous annual festival called Other Voices, and they have been online. But even our book festivals, our theatre festivals have all gone online at this time. And during this week, during St. Patrick's Week, there will be a huge amount of cultural content online, free to stream for people should they be interested in doing so.
Yeah.
So there is something called the St. Patrick's Festival, which would normally be in person in Dublin and in cities around Ireland, and that would feature music and dance and theatre and literature. That is all online this year. And in some ways that's good for us, because it means that people in Indonesia can go to the website and can watch for free very high quality performances. So that festival is available at the very easy title of www.stpatricksfestival.ie, and then also on Ireland.com as well. There's an awful lot of accessible material for people. So for now, I think we have to focus on accessing culture online. In a year or so, I hope we will be able to start participating more in each other's culture. And I have been lucky enough over the years to attend a lot of Indonesian performances, and I look forward to being able to do that again.
Yeah. So it's usually offline festival, right? But because pandemic, the St. Patrick Festival must be held online, right? And I want to know, in the present or in the future, is there any event or something that maybe want to make participation with Indonesian people, especially the youth? Is there an event?
Yeah, so essentially at the embassy, we're always trying to plan engagements, and particularly with younger people, because we feel that that sort of the innovation in young people in Ireland is reflected here as well. So we would love, for example, to see, we have these great musicians here who play Irish music. So we would love to work a little bit more on developing engagement with Irish musicians. At the end of this year, we're hoping, if people can travel again, to have an engagement with Indonesian street artists, female street artists, and we will hopefully be bringing an Irish street artist here as well, possibly to work in Bali on some street art for us. And we feel that that will open up an opportunity for artist communities in the two countries to make the connections with each other and to be able to build collaboration from that.
Okay, because I think many students in Indonesia or young people want to know how they can contribute or explore themselves in international experience, because we are interviewing with the Ireland ambassador. So where do they can know about the information about something like that?
Well, the first thing I would suggest that they do is head to the embassy's website, which is at www.dfa/Ireland. And also perhaps to engage with educationinireland.ie as well, which shows some of the possibilities to study in Ireland or to take part in exchanges in Ireland. I would also recommend that they go to the St. Patrick's Festival website, which I mentioned earlier, which is www.stpatricksfestival.ie, and also to look at the website of the Government of Ireland, which includes details on cultural issues, and we'll be focusing on cultural issues almost exclusively this week, and that's www.ireland.com.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Madam Ambassador. So that's all for today's interview session with Her Excellency Madam Ambassador Olivia Leslie. Okay, Kanal Dengar, sekali dengar literasi tersebar. Salam literasi.